Hey everyone, welcome to Len Bush Roses. It's Georgia and Kristin here in the greenhouse.
Again, we missed each other last week.
Doing our little Flowers Between Friends segment.
Yes,
yeah, right
literally,
here.
flowers
between friends. Get it? Yeah. Anyway, let's pop this out of the way.
We're having too much fun
Yeah,
today.
we are. It's been a fun start. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about some tips and tricks, care for some of the flowers like hydrangeas, which we've been getting a few different questions on. And it's close to Valentine's, so rose questions, a couple little tricks and tips on rose care for the upcoming Valentine's season,
But
as
this is
well
the perfect
as
time. As in a couple of weeks, you will be getting started to get your Valentine roses in, and even for you consumers who hopefully will be getting flowers for Valentine's Day, we can help you learn a few tips and tricks on how to care for your flowers at home too.
Yes, exactly. So, and what we're going to share with you today are things that we've tested, things that we've learned through the years, and I never share information, especially in a venue like this, unless I have tested it and tried it. So what I'm sharing with you today are things that really have worked for me. So we're going to share a little bit about that. But let's talk about roses real quickly. Some just general rose tip things that I do or that you want to do in general to make sure you're caring for your roses the best that you can, especially during this fun holiday that's coming up, and is such well known for roses, one of our main ingredients for Valentine's. I'm just going to pop these aside here, but for me, what I like to do, first of all, is make sure that you've always got a clean container. That's very important. Like whether you're a consumer watching us right now, because we have consumers who watch, who want to talk to you as well, or whether you're a shop owner and running a store, running a shop, or running whatever. Clean containers are so important. We're going to talk about cleaners. Kristin and I are going to talk about cleaners in a little bit, but you've got to have clean containers. You've got to have clean buckets. It is very important. That is like step number one. And when your roses come in, if they come in dry packed, which sometimes they're dry packed, sometimes they're hydrated. But if they come in dry packed, it's really important to cut that rose right away, fresh cut, and get it into your hydration fluid, whatever it is that you're using in your store. Your hydration fluid is very key at that point.
Yeah, don't skip that step.
No, I don't like to let them sit in dry pack. Some people do. My preference is as soon as it comes in, if it's dry packed, cut it and hydrate. Yep. So, and that's what we're going to talk about real quickly here too. So, like consumers, when they buy roses at the store, sometimes you buy a vase of roses, but sometimes they come in that little package and you pretty little wrapping, and you bring it home and you open it up and then you put it in a vase yourself. And it comes with,
usually it should come with a little packet, something similar to this. There's different brands out there. They're all good. So,
And you want to follow the directions on the back. So that's very important. I have a sweet friend who used to buy his wife flowers, but he would think that you can only had to use half the packet.
Oh, sure. Save some for next time.
I hope he still does buy our flowers. You said he used to buy our flowers. But his used to technique is what I corrected. He would only use half the packet and tell her, save it in a couple of days, use the rest of it. No, follow it. Use the whole packet the first time you bring it home into your quart of water or whatever it calls for. Stir it up and use it. Okay, when it comes to roses, I like to use a cutter, and I like to give it a slanty cut. Reason you don't give it a blunt cut is because when it gets into that vase at the very bottom, as you can see, I don't know, Sarah, if you want to kind of zoom in a little bit, if you were to blunt cut it, and you put that in there with a bunch of greenery, it can close off the bottom of that.
It literally is touching the bottom just like this, right?
Whereas if you cut it on a slant and pop it in, it actually has a bigger surface to intake that water and the nutrition that's in the water, in that hydration fluid, to keep it stronger and more alive longer and fresh.
You probably want to take at least an inch off the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Kristin. Yep, a good inch off the bottom. And then in a couple of days, feel free to recut it. Fresh water. If you've got another packet of flower food, But always, and if you rinse the stems, which I like to do, rinse the stems, I will give them a slight recut again. Rinse, fresh water, clean container, back in, and they last longer.
And again, to our consumers, you might not have a cutter like this at home.
You may not. Use shears. Use a pruner out of your garage that you use in the summer. Just make sure you clean it first. Hot soap and water, if that's what you have at home. If you're in a store, you're probably going to use something like a floral cleaner or a DCD, which we'll talk about again in just a minute. But use a good cleaner and clean that tool before you actually cut it, because you're putting bacteria from other things onto that. You can also use a kitchen scissors. I use my kitchen scissors, but I make sure they're, again, clean. So, or you can use a knife. Some people prefer to cut with a knife, but when it comes to roses, I prefer to use a very sharp cutter, regardless if it's a knife or whether it's a pruners, because you do not want to crush the stem of the rose. It's really important not to do that. So make sure you're cutting, and then that you're also cleaning off foliage, the leaves. I mean, it's beautiful. Leaves are gorgeous, but don't let them in the water. Clean that off. Keep them up here. That's perfectly fine, but do not let foliage from any flower, and it's actually, that's my rule, any flower. You should not have foliage or leaves in the water because, again, it creates bacteria. And bacteria in that water
don't like each other.
Not good at all. So there's a couple little rose tips, and for keeping roses pretty this time of year, so we're going to pop those out of the way. And then hydrangeas. Okay.
It's a love-hate, isn't it?
It is a love-hate, and this is a tricky thing. So like I said, and I seriously, through the years, I have learned things from mentors. I have done a lot of research on hydrangeas. I have read and I have tested different things that I have found. And what I'm going to share with you are some of the things that I have found that work the best, that I have had the great success with. But hydrangeas do not in the least scare me, and I use them all the time. I use them in flower or in vases of water, and I use them in oasis.
Oasis also.
And I've given you many things with hydrangeas. Flowers between friends, again, I give her flowers a lot.
Lucky me.
So here's a few tips. So first of all, what do we have here, Kristin? We've got...
Well, the mini green, this is a popular one. It's probably one of our best sellers, the mini green. They do call it mini green, but we know from some
overboard.
We'll get that later.
Jump.
Yeah. We've been told by some of our growers that this is actually a
immature hydrangea. Yep, that's been harvested.
Not to say this is the mommy one, but it is something similar to this. People like it because it's a good price point, but also it doesn't take up as much space, right?
Correct. If you want a small, if you don't want it really that, I mean, look at the difference. That's a hydrangea.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want this, sometimes you want a little slice of hydrangea.
Yeah, different kind of texture and different way to add.
Now, there are some varieties of minis that are also grown to be more miniature, but what we learned from one of our growers, one of our vendors, is that oftentimes a mini hydrangea is actually an immature hydrangea. But that also then is a little bit more of a challenge because some of the strongest, best hydrangeas are actually a mature hydrangea.
Sure.
So, for instance, I want to show you, I don't know, Sarah, if you can kind of zoom in a little bit here, and I'm going to take this off, bring it a little closer here. When you get a hydrangea, and you can actually see like the little buttons in the center. Some people call them buttons, or the little seeds, the little blossom pod right in the center, like right there. This is actually a mature hydrangea. If you're getting it in and you're not seeing those and they're really closed up, that's an immature hydrangea, and actually then it's been cut prematurely or a little too soon in the stage. And that hydrangea doesn't mean that, oh, I have a slightly underdeveloped hydrangea, it's going to last longer, it's still going to grow. No. Once it's actually cut off of that stem, then it is actually challenged to actually thrive. So a more mature hydrangea that has been cut and harvested and sent to you is actually going to have a better chance of lasting longer and is stronger and more hardy to last longer.
And to be a little bit on the opposite, I did question this. I know some of my accounts when I was in sales bought these and let them mature in their coolers, and they do turn a little whiter because it's so green is because it's immature.
Yes.
And they did open up and get larger.
Yes.
So
then they will.
Yeah.
So they will definitely do that.
So tell me about the foliage and why.
Okay,
we
definitely.
Want to get rid of it.
Yep. So here is something to it. Here is a comment. I actually recently talked to a shop owner who did not know this. And she's like, oh my gosh, no wonder I'm struggling with hydrangeas all the time. And she chooses not to use them because she's been struggling, but she didn't know this. So here's a common little thing. These beautiful leaves, the foliage, which is so big and popular right now, and everybody wants foliage and things and greenery.
No.
But not for hydrangeas. You want to take them off. You want to pop them off. And I just simply do that. I pop them off. And little tiny ones like this, way up here at the top, those are okay. But you know what? No, you need to take that off because look at how heavy these leaves are. Part of their job is to help support it, the head of the hydrangea. Part of their job is to help give that a little bit of strength. So what you're doing, you're getting a dehydrated hydrangea in and you're cutting it and you're putting it into your arrangement. You're leaving those beautiful leaves on. what's going to happen is that's going to suck up the nutrients from the water, going to go right to these leaves. That is where the majority of that nutrition is going to go, leaving very little for the head of the hydrangea to actually keep it perky, keep it hardy, and to keep it blooming for you and strong.
Right.
So take those leaves off. I even go as far as to take these little tiny ones off in here, but I will leave these bits and pieces up in here as well. So removing leaves is very key because your hydrangea needs, the head of that hydrangea needs nutrition, not the leaves. You're going to have to take them off, okay? Another thing is, when you have your hydrangea out, see how they're sitting on the table here? I took them from a bucket of hydration fluid laying on my table. If you pre-cut, which oftentimes people do, they kind of pre-cut to the length they want, sit it down, prepare a few more flowers. It's sitting over here. Well, right away, this is drying up. The pores in here that take in the nutrition, they're starting to dry up and close off. The same with a rose. Roses do that too. So when you cut your roses, when you cut your hydrangeas, these are two items that I do this with a lot. I cut it goes right from there to my water source. So even right now, a few seconds, I'd cut that again and right into my water source. Always keep them in water. If you take it out a couple days later and you're rinsing the stems and you're going to put it back in a new vase or clean your vase out, give it a fresh cut. That's very important. It needs that. Also, the alum trick, and I know some of you probably heard the alum trick. It works. I swear by it. However, I don't use it for everyday work. I use it like if I'm doing a wedding and I want to ensure that my hydrangea is going to be fresh, I use alum. The granulated isn't going to work as well as the powdered alum because the powdered is smaller. What happens, what the alum does, and I wish I had a little container here, but I couldn't find it this morning. You take it and you cut that at the bottom of your stem, and you're going to dip it immediately into the alum and get it really coated well with the alum in your hand. Don't put your stem into your container and continue to use it that way. That's transferring bacteria. Not okay. So I pour it out onto a clean table, or I pour it into my hand and dip it like this, or onto a napkin and dip it. That's what I do, and I make sure the whole bottom is coated and then right into my vase of water or right into my oasis. What happens is the alum that soaks up into that, and it actually helps to keep those pores open. It helps to keep that hydrangea porous so it can continue to take nutrients from the water. So that's what the alum does, and it does work. I do it quite a bit. Like if I'm cutting hydrangeas from my yard, I do it. My everyday work here at Len Bush, nope. But I do it in my wedding work and in everything else that I do from there. So,
and just as for those of you who are like, what did she say? It's alum. It's actually in the spice aisle in the grocery store.
Yes, you'll find. Yes, it's a pickle.
A-L-U-M.
Well, think about what it does. It's usually pickling, and so what does it do? It actually helps to keep the pickles a little bit more crunchy and a little bit more firm. So think about it.
Pickles.
Yeah. So there's a couple little tips. So removing, the takeaway. Remove your leaves. Never let the end dry out. Cut into water immediately. And if you want to use alum, go for it. Okay?
Okay, so just to move things along quickly here, this is all super important, so we don't want to rush through, but she talked about cutting things and clean.
Clean.
What do you clean with?
Floor cleaners.
Yes.
DCD. You want to talk about it?
Okay, we can start with buckets. Sure. So DCD, those of you who don't or haven't quite figured out, maybe you're still bleach users. I used bleach back in the day, 28 years ago. We use bleach. That's what we figured. Bleach kills everything. Let's use bleach to clean all of our buckets. It's cheap. It also ruins your clothes. So DCD actually is a product that's been developed that you can use it to clean buckets. You don't have to rinse it out. So literally you pour, I think it's a capful. Read the directions.
Read the directions.
Oh my gosh, read the directions.
Always read directions. But wear gloves because it's powerful stuff.
It is.
Wear gloves.
It kills. But it does not ruin your clothes.
Yep.
So it's a capful or something like that. You put it in. You do a lot of swishing around. You dump it into the next, but it does not need to be rinsed out, and that's what's so great about it. You can also put it into a spray bottle. Yes. Do the mixing as needed.
Yep. According to directions.
Yep. And then that is what you can use to clean your tools, your surfaces, everything like that. I will say, if you guys aren't doing that, you're doing a disservice to your customers and to your shop and your reputation.
That could be why you're struggling with hydrangeas and roses.
Yep.
You're not keeping things clean enough. They
important.
have to be cleaned all the time.
It is.
Absolutely.
And I will be one to say I'm guilty of that. You're in a hurry, you maybe don't do it. Have it be part of your routine.
Yep.
Those of you who had the privilege to watch our last episode of LBR Talks, she actually talked about, they talked about having a list of, at the end of the day, like, these things get done every single day at the end of your
That's really
designing.
important to have
and one
that,
of them would be to clean your tools, clean your surface, so when you walk in the next day, it's taken care of.
Yes. I like to take it, mix it up according to package directions. Like I said, my tools go into that at the end of a shift or at the end of the time that I'm working, if I'm doing a lot of work. They go right into that and sit overnight. So, and that's key too, is really, it says on here, you should let it sit 5 to 10 minutes before dumping it out and then putting something into it.
Sure, makes sense. And I think Renata did remind us, sweet Renata's like, make sure that you clearly mark the bottle. Like, yes, this is a dangerous, I mean, it is. You don't want this on food surface.
So we talk about DCD, but something else out there is also the floral cleaner. And this is what I love to use actually here at the office when I'm working, just to clean my table. A couple little squirts. It does a general little clean, thank you. General little cleaning on my tools as well, cleans up the surface. But when I really want to kill those germs, like we mentioned, got to go to that DCD. But this is a great general use. Renata kind of likened it to a 409, but I think it's a little stronger, but like that 409
And
cleaner.
It seemed like maybe it's a little safer if it's a surface that you're maybe eating and working. You know,
which, as florists, we do quite a bit.
Yeah, we eat our lunches where we design.
So we've got floral cleaner, we've got the DCD. They each have their places, but you can use the DCD and put that into spray bottles, like we mentioned earlier, just like this. But I really do like this floral cleaner. It makes it quick and easy.
Popular product
thing
during
to
COVID.
do.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, I'm sure. So,
okay, last item, that's your favorite.
Finishing touch. Okay, so we talked about the care of hydrangeas. We talked about the care of roses. Now we've got finishing touch. This is how I spray everything. When flowers walk out of your store, we're talking to our store owners now, shop owners, always use finishing touch. This is a product that will just really kind of, it's like the sprinkling on top of the cupcake. Your product is now finished. It is the item that will help to continue to hydrate these flowers, helps to give them a longevity, kind of like a preservation on the outside of those beautiful flower tips and blossoms. It just soaks in that finishing touch, and it helps to keep those flowers stronger, better, and more beautiful for a longer time. So a couple good squirts of your finishing touch. It's the way to make sure that this product is going to be able to soak in this finishing touch, which is kind of like a preservative.
Bag it right away?
Don't bag it. Don't stick it in your cooler right away because you want it to stay kind of at that room temperature and let it soak the nutrients from the finishing touch into the petals. It keeps them fresh longer, but they will continue to open, which is the nice thing about it.
Yeah,
so it continues to suck in those nutrients and allows the flower to continue to open and blossom and bloom to where you want it to be. But this is going to keep those blooms hydrated longer, keeping them fresher and more beautiful for your customers.
So I almost feel like every workstation should have their own bottle of it.
I agree. Every workstation should have this for quick tidying, and every workstation should have finishing touch.
And for those of you who are like,
oh, yes,
we use that?
Yes.
Okay, great, awesome, because we use it already. Good job, gold star for the day.
Excellent, you get a gold star.
But notice that the two bottles are very similar.
Yes.
And so we've had a couple oopses.
I have. Seriously, I have reached for my finishing touch. Yeah. Yes, I'm an oops. And I've grabbed my floral cleaner. And floral cleaner will turn flowers brown and black.
Yes.
It just does it within a couple hours.
So make sure you're marking your bottle.
Yeah, I mean, this is a branding thing. They've got to make them, this is Floral Life, they got to make them look nice and make them look similar. But mark your bottle, do a ribbon, red, stop sign, Mr. Yuck, I don't care. But just mark your bottle. Don't do a Georgia and spray with your floral cleaner on your finishing touch.
Agreed. Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for all that, Georgia. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
It helps me, even though I'm not designing every day like you are. It even helps me. So, and I hopefully it helps you too.
Just a few quicks and tips and tricks. And got any questions? Let us know.
Between friends.
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully you guys have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.